Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. Today marks 20 years since the horrific attacks of September the 11th, 2001. A day that will certainly live in infamy, in many ways unique and different from the day of infamy of December 7th, 1941, where a military outpost was attacked by Japan, whereas here in 2001 in New York and in Washington there was an attack against innocent civilians. Now the Pentagon was a military target, but nonetheless the vast majority of people that died that day were innocent civilians. It was the largest terrorist attack to that date. And it was something that certainly many of us remember where we were that day. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in this video for the first time, my experiences and where I was at. But I also want to reflect that there may be a lot of people who are watching this channel who may be too young to really remember exactly what happened that day. A plane had crashed into the World Trade Center, and many people thought it was an accident, thought it was maybe a very small plane, and just lost its way on that clear blue Tuesday morning. Nonetheless, when the second plane had hit, everybody knew it was definitely an attack of some sort, more than likely a terrorist attack. And then people put the pieces together that what had happened, and I believe it was February of 1993, the World Trade Center was attacked and with a truck bomb in the basement with an attempt to knock down the towers, to have one tower collapse upon the other. Well, that attack failed, but there was a promise to come back, and they did, as Al-Qaeda, militant Islamists. Fundamental extremism in the Muslim faith is to blame for this attack against our people. And nonetheless, many conspiracy theories have made their way up out of the ashes of the attacks since then. But the truth is that we were attacked by militant Islamists, by Islamic extremism was the cause and the culprit of the attacks. And I believe it is fundamental that we speak the truth as to what happened that day in memory of the victims. And the victims, many of them are still suffer today from the attacks of that morning on September the 11th, 2001. If we don't speak truth to power on this, how will we always remember the cause of this, so that we can fight in this war, which really, believe it or not, we are still in, even though we've just pulled out of Afghanistan, which is a whole nother debate, a whole nother topic of discussion that we've covered to some extent on this channel. But nonetheless, we must be diligent, and we must keep and remember what happened that day and why it occurred, and also be diligent to fight against it. Because there is this notion of the caliphate, which we have seen with ISIS, and that is what their brand of Islam is to bring the caliphate to the whole world, essentially. And so therefore, it is incumbent upon us to remember, always remember. And this medal here, the United States Mint, was minted 10 years ago in an anniversary to in honor and memory of the victims. Always remember, here we can see sort of the shadows of the tower behind us, and a hopeful figure to kind of illustrate that the flame of the memory of the fallen here, and to kind of just to look beyond and with a hopeful eye to the future, to kind of come together and honor and hope. Here we see on the reverse of this medal, and I think it was a well-done medal. It's a different reflection. It doesn't just show the complete horror of that day, but it gives us these attributes and things, ways that we can come together. And that's really what September 12th was all about. I believe it was in that time that we may have been the most united that we've ever been in this country, in the United States of America. Sadly, 20 years later, we are more divided than ever before. And it didn't take long after September 11th, for various different reasons, by the way. And some of that could be blamed in some ways to the Bush administration in some aspect, but nonetheless, you can get into political debates about that. But I believe that in the end, speaking truth to power about what happened that day against the innocent people and keeping their memory alive is really what it's all about. There were great heroes that day that sacrificed to save people, and they saved a lot of people, and many of them died. 343 firefighters and police officers also died that day. Other first responders were killed, and they are the heroes. And Flight 93, which was headed for the Capitol building, well, it was thwarted by the passengers of that plane. Let's roll, says Todd Beamer, as the plane was nosedived into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. There are heroes, and we respect and honor their memory by speaking truth to power about what happened that day. And it's fascinating as we've gone through the years on what we consider important, what we consider petty. And in the grand scheme of things, we should come together and be united under the cause of what this country is about. There's a reason why the flags flew after September 12th and beyond. For years, a couple of years, people were flying the flag as in the spirit of patriotism, a fervor of patriotism we've not seen in quite a long time. And that patriotism, which, by the way, can be used for bad as well, like the Patriot Act, that was abused very quickly after it was passed. We must recognize that. We must honor and respect civil liberties. We must keep the balance between security and freedom. Freedom being paramount. We always should err on the side of freedom, in my view. And so therefore, I believe that is part of what the spirit of what September 11th is about. And the best way we can honor the heroes of 9/11 is to have freedom and to respect freedom and respect all those who died. This, my friends, is a very special piece that I acquired not long after the attacks of 9/11. There's actually a video of this on my channel that I posted quite some time ago. And this is a very special medallion that contains actual steel from the World Trade Center site. And this was something that was produced by International Agile Manufacturing. It was a fairly controversial piece because people felt that it was exploiting the attacks, but nonetheless, it is the proceeds from the purchase of these went to help the families and victims. Proceeds from the sale we use to assist those families who have been impacted by this atrocity, and an atrocity it was, folks. This medallion here is a very special piece to honor, very unique, and be able to have in the collection here. So I'm pleased to have it. And fascinating indeed. You can see it there. God bless America, it says, September the 11th, 2001. And here we have Psalm 37. It says, in memory of those who perished, cast in the United States of America with steel from the World Trade Center. And it is something else to see there. So as we remember on this solemn day in memory, let's not forget, and let's not be kind of contorted and drawn away from the realities of what happened that day. And let us remember what this country is about. We are founded upon the principles of freedom, liberty, individuality, and it's about limited government. I trust people more than I do government. And I think if we come together and realize that, and realize what we are about as a nation, and come together in that aspect, I believe that we'll be a much better people. So there you have it. Let me know what your thoughts are and reflections on this day. I will say that I remember very clearly. I was working in an office, working on for a contract for procurement for a microfiche capturing project, and I had to work on a scanner in my office, and I saw the news come. I have a screen grab from CNN that time. That was back when CNN wasn't quite so insane, and it showed the plane, the second plane, as it was about to hit. I didn't have TV, but I had internet in my office and was able to see some of the stories as websites crashed or were frozen all over the place because people were itching for news to see. Then I went downstairs in the office complex and saw another business had it on the television and saw one of the towers collapse. But I remember calling one of the contractors up in White Plains, New York, who could see the smoke from their offices. And they told me they could not be on the line very long because the lines were getting flooded and overwhelmed. Cell service was down. Not that it was much of a thing back in 2001, but it did not take long for the cell service to go down. And so I just remember that call and me giving them my thoughts and prayers and condolences to the people in that area. And they were saying that they, yes, appreciate it, and they needed to go to keep the lines open for emergency use. Nonetheless, it was a day that will certainly be one that we will never forget, and we should never forget for the reality of what it was. So I wish you all well on this September 11th, and let me know what your thoughts are on this medal and about the day. I know people have different views. In fact, I may have a minority view that I believe the official story of 9/11, but that's okay. But there we have differences of opinion. I don't necessarily want to get in a debate about that, but I think we can all agree that they were heroes that day that sacrificed themselves, and we honor and remember those who fought in Afghanistan and in Iraq and other places to help fight the war on terror. And as I know, Iraq didn't have anything to do with 9/11, but nonetheless, that's another debate. I know people will talk about that, but regardless, anybody who serves in the armed forces, we honor you. We appreciate everything that you do. And I want to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all and to remember 9/11.